Welcome to another episode of the AlbumReview.net podcast. I'm Greg Potters. Did you know the 90s are back? Well, in this episode they are. For this episode, along with music clips, I'm going to review Pearl Jam's latest album, their 2024 release, Dark Matter. So sit tight. The year was 1992. The sun hadn't stopped beating down on the asphalt of the parking lot at the Great Woods Performing Arts Center in Mansfield, Massachusetts. It was August 8th to be exact. My four buddies and I had just walked down from the parking lot to the venue. Great Woods is one of those old classic amphitheaters, built in the 1970s and 80s. Its grand opening, I believe, was on June 13th, 1986. But to me, it seemed as if it had been there for decades. There wasn't a cloud in the sky on this particular day, and the opening band, Lush, hit the stage promptly at 2 o'clock p.m., I can remember. It was going to be a long night with 7 bands on the main stage, for this was the Lollapalooza tour of 1992. So I wasn't old enough in 1992 to buy alcohol, at least legally. So I spent the first 45 minutes of Lush's first set just wandering around the lawn. Remember lawns at concert venues? That was back before the corporations. All right, here I go sounding like an old D-bag again. But that was back before all the old corporations started putting their stamp on everything, on every entertainment venue, and maximizing every inch by tearing up the lawn and putting in seats, but they would still charge full price even though you were in the back of the venue. Anyways, back to my point. I was wandering around the lawn just watching people, and when out of the corner of my eye, a man with a brown corduroy jacket appeared. He was wearing cargo shorts and a black Chicago White Sox hat on backwards. Can any of you guess who this person was? In late 1991, my obsession with hair metal bands had started to wane a little bit. I had heard about several bands coming out of Seattle, Washington that were creating a legitimate buzz around the industry. And the sound was different. The band members didn't wear leather. That was sort of refreshing to me at the time, I can remember. They just wore like jeans, t-shirts, and of course those famous flannels from that decade. All right, let's face it, we all had one. And many times the band members just walked up on stage, played their music, and then went home. There wasn't this showmanship that had previously drawn me in throughout the 80s during those huge rock shows. And the music was raw. It was void of ballads most of the time, and was mixed with more punk and blues than that hard rock heavy metal genre. This was new to me. It was exciting. I felt grown up. I know that sounds silly, but I was relatively still young and hadn't yet gotten my driver's license. Therefore, I felt like I was hanging with the college kids when this stuff came on the radio. I went over to that man in the White Sox cap, tapped him on the back of the shoulder. He was talking to somebody else, and I just rudely interrupted. Aside from about 3 of us, it was clear no one else knew who this guy was. He turned around and he looked at me. I was astonished at how short he was. Shorter than me, for crying out loud. And I'm only 5'10", or I was at the time. I'm a little taller now, but not much. I remember when I started to speak, I couldn't control my words. It was like my mouth was just moving, but my brain was like, hey, I just work here. I'm not in charge of this guy. Thankfully, I managed to mutter a few words that made some sense. Hey, Eddie, sorry to interrupt your conversation, but I really just wanted to come over and tell you how much I enjoy your music. Yep, you got it. It was Eddie Vedder, lead singer of the act going on second that day after Lush. Lead singer for a brand new, hardly 1-year-old band called Pearl Jam. Man, to be on the Lollapalooza tour when you haven't even been a band for a year, now that's good music. That's also knowing the right people too, I guess, right? Well, more on that later. So Eddie gave me a full-size smile as he shook my hand and thanked me for my kind words. I can remember he pointed at my black Pearl Jam t-shirt and said, "Oh, thanks a lot for supporting us, man. Yeah, we plan to put on a great show tonight." Then he asked me what time it was, and so I glanced at my watch, telling him it was 2:44. And before I could bring my wrist back down to my waist, Eddie let out a, "Oh, shit. Sorry, man, I gotta go. I gotta be on stage in 10 minutes. About 12 minutes later, Pearl Jam walks up on stage. I can remember Eddie saying, quote, "This is the last time we'll be in Boston for a little while, so tonight we're gonna effing let it all out," unquote. He stomped his foot as his torso shifted downwards. His hair was flying everywhere with microphone in hand as the band whipped into even flow. I was in heaven, pure heaven. So fast forward 32 years later, picture yourself getting out of a time machine. You've transported to the future. Thankfully, most of the band members in Pearl Jam are still alive, pushing 60 or very close to it. But albums such as 10, Verses, and Vitalogy are locked in the history books as some of the greatest rock albums ever recorded. What I find comforting is, out of all the Seattle powerhouses out of the early 90s, Pearl Jam still stands, and they stand tall. As a diehard fan in the early 90s, later albums such as No Code, Yield, Binaural, I don't even know how to pronounce that, Binaural, and Riot Act, they didn't resonate much. Maybe I just need to go back. I don't know. You guys tell me. In 2013, the band released their 10th studio album called Lightning Bolt, which echoed through my car speakers for about a year. It's a solid album, definitely worth a spin for those of you wondering what PJ's been up to. By the way, I call him PJ sometimes. If you're wondering what they've been up to over the last decade or so since the early 90s, you should check that album out. But the real reason I'm writing this review is to shed light on their latest release, 2024's Dark Matter, or at least it's the latest release based on the time that I'm recording this, which is June of 2024. I chose this album to review, not just to change it up, because I've been reviewing a lot of albums that are 30 to 40 years old lately, but to shed on a band that has truly succeeded at recording a great album 33 years after the release of their first album. So we all know this. Many bands fade out. They continue to tour as they can just live off their 3 or 4 records. But Pearl Jam, man, they continue to release new music and new quality music, in my humble opinion. Dark Matter is Pearl Jam's 12th studio album. Released on April 19th, 2024, it was produced by Andrew Watt through Pearl Jam's own private record label, Monkeywrench Records, with help from major label Republic Records. Andrew Watt was a completely different producer than who Pearl Jam was used to. Watt helped the band focus on music more, less of the production. He was also much younger than the band members at age 33, and the first producer since the recording of their first album, 10, to really challenge them. This memory makes the band members laugh as they recall this brash kid walking into the studio with heavy enthusiasm, almost like a kid in a candy store, continually making recommendations to the band that they try different approaches to writing and recording. Watts produced albums for artists inside and out of hard rock and heavy metal, such as Justin Bieber, Post Malone, Miley Cyrus. So this was a different approach for the guys in Pearl Jam. But Watt had also produced Iggy Pop, Ozzy, and the Rolling Stones, and he has proven he can work with any artist within any genre. Watt is also the guitarist for the Earthlings, which is the backing band for Eddie Vedder's solo band. The early recording sessions for Dark Matter began at Andrew Watt's home basement studio. Halfway through the sessions, Watt's basement was accidentally flooded. Much of the band's equipment was damaged. Without a plan, the band began to look for an alternate studio to finish the recording. Famed producer Rick Rubin heard about the flood and invited them to record at his studio, the famed Shangri-La in Malibu, California. Shangri-La has a deep history dating back to 1958 when the ranch was built by a Mexican-American actress named Margot. Like Madonna, Margot had one name. I don't know, Margot. It was used for filming Hollywood movies and TV shows throughout the 60s. And in 1974, the band made the place more popular by renting it out and recording their album Northern Lights, Southern Cross. Fast forward to 2011, Rick Rubin was able to snag the famed recording venue when it was listed for sale. Rubin was said to have paid $2 million for it, a far cry from where it was originally listed by the owner at $4.1 million earlier that year. Before the studio flood, the band was able to record Dark Matter's first two tracks, Scared of Fear and React Respond. Scared of Fear opens the album. Scared of Fear opens the album. Personally, I think this track is heavy and sturdy with a convincing chorus, but it reminds me of some of the tracks from their 2020 release Gigaton, or Gigaton. I think it's Gigaton. They're durable, but I don't know if I'd call them memorable. The same goes for React Respond, a track with a heavy-duty bass line opener with a solid build, but doesn't stick in my mind as a PJ classic. Of course, anything heard through high-quality Bose headphones leaves little to overlook many times. The party on Dark Matter really starts during track 3, which is called Wreckage.
Sun hiding somewhere beyond the rain, needing for the light
The song grabbed my neck, took me on a spin around the black circle, and then spit me out after leaving me wondering what the hell just happened. The opening guitar is catching, and the lyrics to the song can be interpreted in many different ways. What's interesting about reviewing a newly released album is there is less data, fewer interviews, and little news out there to research on it. One article I did find noted Eddie wrote the song about our former president's desperation to win back the White House, but it also was apparent he refuted that claim during a late April interview on the Howard Stern show just this past April. The truth is, Eddie doesn't really recall what he was thinking when he wrote these lyrics. He noted he mostly wrote in real time when the band was just playing. He would hum, get the melody, and then figure out the words later. Either way, the song is memorable, real memorable. It's up there with some of their best, I mean it. And I think many people can relate in their own way to the lyrics, combing through the wreckage. I think most of us have done that, if not literally, then certainly figuratively. The album's title track appears to have the highest number of streams, at least according to Spotify. Arguably the most popular music streaming service on the planet today, wouldn't you say? Either way, that's not what's really important to me. And being a podcaster myself, I'm a little skeptical sometimes on the accuracy of these numbers. But the title track, Dark Matter, is weighty. I would describe this song in a similar light as Eddie described the entire album. He noted a lot of the feedback has been that the album is, quote, soaring but grounded, unquote, and, quote, in your face but also on its back foot, unquote. This wasn't manifested per se. It was just by accident. The song contains another meaty bass line by Jeff Ament. Eddie sings some very powerful and influential words in the song when everybody else pays for someone else's mistake.
Hear the light from my eyes, in the blood from my heart. When all this dark matter, take a breath from my chest, let the thoughts in my mind. Well, losing time, dark matter. Denounce the demigods, King Diamond to destroy. Lord, the dialogue, your word against the law. These days when everybody else pays for someone else's mistake. There's blame, takes shame till everybody else pays for someone else's mistake.
I'm Greg Potters with the albumreview.net podcast. Do you want to amplify your passion? Well, now you can. Introducing createmypodcast.com. Now there is a place you can go to get help building your own podcasts. If you're a business owner or an entrepreneur and you're taking the leap like I did and starting a podcast, I can help. I will walk you through a step-by-step process on how to launch, publish, and grow your podcast. I can also offer quick, easy tips on the best equipment, software, and tips and tricks that are going to be right for you and your budget. To get started, go to createmypodcast.com or message me directly at gpotters@createmypodcast.com. Let's get started. The party really continues with the song Won't Tell. Although perhaps kind of more radio friendly, I would put this track up there in the band's top 20, perhaps their top 10 of all time. Yes, PJ fans, I said it. About a week or so after the album's release, I was driving home from a Black Crowes concert. I decided to play the song in my car for a friend, thinking perhaps it might resonate with him. As I drove down my old childhood highway, Route 9, the chorus grew and grew until it finally peaked, just as I was driving past the street I grew up on. Yeah, this was a little coincidental, but I can remember a tear coming down my eye, just a small one. It was a tear of joy. This song just emanates joy. I don't think my friend sitting shotgun was aware, but it happened. And I knew then I had fallen in love with another Pearl Jam song, and I was elated because it had been 30 years since this band had kicked me in the head like this.
Eyes were soft and sympathized, a vision so uncompromised, loaded in. As she pulled the book up off the shelf, a dressing gown and nothing else but a secret grin. And I always had one question, free of all suggestion, do I stay or keep it in? You can find me here, waiting for your message to come. Can you hear, can you feel the change in my heart? Waiting for a message to come. Can you hear, can you feel the change in my heart? My heart. She laid the book upon the desk, open to the page I asked, could that be the one? As she smiled and played a minor chord in a key I never heard before, one song and it was done. You can find me here, waiting for your message to come. Can you hear, can you feel the change in my heart? Waiting for a message to come. Can you hear, can you feel the change in my heart? Oh, I'd open the door, I'd let you in, I would open it if you came. But if it's not you knocking, it's staying closed. Oh, I'd open the door, shed all my skin, allow for a bit of grace. For in my dreamy soul, need to let the longing go. Oh, and the promise I still hold won't take so. Can you feel? Can you hear? Can you feel the change in my heart? Can you feel? Can you hear? Can you feel? Can you hear?
It was interesting to learn that Jeff Ament and Eddie wrote the song in a very non-conventional way. Jeff and Andrew Watt handed Ed the lyric sheet during a recording session. Ed built the structuring of how he sang the song without ever hearing the music written for it. Ament commented it was the most exciting way he has ever written a song because he got to watch Ed just make up its vocal structure in a completely organic way. For additional songs on the album, Eddie would frequently stay up until 4 a.m. writing, many times just to keep up with the speed of the band's recording with Andrew Watt. The intro and foundation of the track Upper Hand is stimulating. A U2-like intro, the edge-like guitar and synth sound builds and builds until the verse kicks in. Eddie really does his thing here on this track, singing his heart out. There's a darkness and a mystery to the song Upper Hand that I cannot quite put my fingers on. See that pun there? Magically pieced together, the song builds to an eventual climax. Stay with me. The tempo speeds up as guitarist Mike McCready solos over Ed's lyrics, "Carry me home, carry me home, carry me home."
But you know, something that I never did was the upper
Another song that's getting a lot of traction on this album is one called Waiting for Stevie. I enjoy hearing the rattle of Jeff Ament hitting the strings on his bass. during this song. It reminds me of a sound I once found as a young teen and could never really part with. It usually happens when you have the treble higher than usual. I know my friends can attest to that. The fun story behind Waiting for Stevie, if you haven't heard, is Eddie and Andrew Watt were literally waiting for Stevie Wonder to arrive and record on Ed's solo album for the Earthlings. The story goes, while recording his solo album, Eddie wanted to have different drummers on the record. And Eddie commented that Stevie Wonder always had the best drummers on all of his albums. So randomly, this prompted them to invite Stevie to record some harmonica or harp on the record. And when they were literally waiting in the studio for Stevie to get there, they came up with the name Waiting for Stevie. That's how organic the recording sessions were for Dark Matter. Despite the title, the song really has nothing to do with waiting for Stevie or waiting for anyone, nonetheless. It's really a story of a young woman who is able to connect to a feeling of love, a feeling of joy, and a feeling of happiness through sound, and connecting to other people also listening to that sound. For the words, you could be loved by everyone and not feel love. You could be told by everyone and not hear a word from above. Swallowed up by the sounds, cutting holes in the clouds. Finds herself in the song, hears her own voice rising. For these words really point to perhaps one of the leading causes of depression and suicide. And I think the moral of the story here is Eddie is just singing about people. Many people who can literally be loved by everyone, but still feel like they haven't been loved by anyone. And that is perhaps one of the prime definitions of loneliness, wouldn't you think? So moving on, the song Running harks back to those punkier, heavier Pearl Jam tracks. A good workout song for sure, but I wouldn't pop this in my top 10 or 20, but it's still a solid track. For the song Something Special, Eddie was heavily influenced by the Velvet Underground, their song After Hours, which is a solo acoustic song performed and sung by the band, the Velvet Underground drummer, I should say, Maureen Tucker, and kind of has that My Roller Coaster vibe, the lead song from the motion picture soundtrack to the film Juno. Kimya Dawson is her name, I think. Eddie wrote the song Something Special as he was thinking about his journey raising his children and how it had been the main focus of his life. And as he wrote, he reflected on the moment when they leave the nest and how scary it is for the parent and the child. I can certainly empathize with that. Something Special is a sweet song. It's a nice train stop along the railroad tracks, but the album picks back up again on the song Got to Give. I can feel this one live in concert. You can sense the build-up, from the light acoustic guitar at the beginning, like you're running through an English garden, to the hard drums and gritty 90s guitar during the verse. Eddie's voice gets meatier and meatier as the track progresses, and the apex of the song happens about 3 minutes and 12 seconds in. As the band slowly picks up the tempo, it slowly builds and builds. As Eddie sings over and over, something's got to give. I'm on a freaking cloud at this point. Every inch of skin is covered in those things that they call goosebumps. I call them happy bumps. I am floating. I am smiling. I am 14 again, remembering hearing this band for the first time and thinking, don't be afraid, G. Everything is going to be okay. Just stick with music for the rest of your life, and everything is going to be okay.
Every day has got to give me liberty or give me death over you. I'll be the last one standing. I'll be the first to forgive you. Driven away, empty-handed, grace in the heart till something cares. Getting to the point where I can't breathe. Getting to the point, got nothing to say. Getting to the point where I've gone. Need a turn, let's get to the point. We all hurry and see. Oh, let's get to the point. We can believe.
The review wouldn't be complete without mentioning the album's closer, the Mariano Rivera, or as I like to say, the Jonathan Papelbon of the album, a song called Setting Sun. A perfect closer to the album. Very much in the pocket for Pearl Jam. Like its predecessors, Release and Indifference, the respective closers for their first two albums, 10 and Verses, they are mellow, they are melodic, and can very much be considered ballads, heavy-duty ballads at that. Therefore, Dark Matter is the strongest Pearl Jam album since 1994's Vitalogy. Listen and find out for yourself.
But there's no such thing to fix a love gone wrong. Keep knocking the door, 'cause I know someone's there. I'll wait on the porch, hoping someday I'll be let in. They say in the end
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the AlbumReview.net podcast and my review of Pearl Jam's 2024 release, Dark Matter. Remember, if you're interested in any of the albums or books that I've discussed in this episode or previous episodes, go to AlbumReview.net and pick up a copy of your own. Listen to all my podcast album reviews at AlbumReview.net by clicking on the podcast tab. They can also be heard wherever podcasts are available. Please follow the show on your preferred platform so you can get regular updates on new episodes. Also, if you guys would be so kind as to pop a quick review or rate the podcast, that helps move the needle and get the word out there. I do want to hear from you, so please email me your feedback, album review requests, and any questions that you might have to gpotters at albumreview.net. That's GPOTTERS at albumreview.net. If you'd like to get regular updates on reviews, interviews, product and music news, go to the homepage and join the mailing list. Visit our LinkedIn and YouTube page and stay tuned for updates on Instagram, Facebook, and that thing they call TikTok. You can find me at AlbumReviewNet. Well, that's it for me on this beautiful June afternoon. Like I said in the review, check this album out. You will not be disappointed. Happy summer.
Take a trip down by the highway. Take a trip down by the highway. Take a trip down by the highway. Take a trip down by